Hello, Mariana Danilovich with Hollywood Portfolio, and we're here at Digital Hollywood Spring with a friend of mine, Adrian Sexton, who's now with new Medici company, and he's going to tell us a little bit about his business and his perspective on digital media.
Open-ended. Hi, Adrian Sexton. I ran digital at Lionsgate Entertainment and Participant Media, and in my second service-oriented company, Medici. I open-ended, how you say it, because some people incorrectly stated. All about taking entertainment and crossing that to lifestyle. So media and lifestyle are our two businesses. We help with marketing to run YouTube channels. We help build a new social business for an ad agency per se that wants to step out of that space. We work with talent agencies like CIA and Endeavor and innovative artists to help them see a business model in digital outside of just creating a new series or placing talent. So a lot of things, but it's really that crossover from entertainment and media to the verticals of lifestyle and the transparencies of Facebook.
Fantastic. And in terms of the verticals, can you tell us about what they are?
Well, I think it's interesting because I had come from a very studio-centric or entertainment media background, and I found myself constantly going, we're appealing to audiences on a marketing or distribution level that are not studio trade workers. They're not working as below or above the line in studios. And we're going after moms or bloggers or horror fans, and all of those audience sectors are lifestyle verticals. They're people who care, they're hobbyists or they're fanboys or fangirls per se. And I said, to understand that bigger lifestyle consideration, and with Facebook as a huge metaphor for this, which has rolled up all of these verticals in a neat way, you have to, when you build a business in digital, you have to cross your understanding of what the content or what the e-commerce or object of sale is into what are those niches of lifestyle that make the most sense. Can you target them correctly? Can you service them? And can you provide them satisfaction?
And what are some of the largest niches that you guys work?
Well, again, it's really interesting because studios where I come from are diversified. They have film and TV and home entertainment, and they have some of them gaming, publishing businesses. But one of the biggest ones we worked on recently was with WPP around social games, meeting the vertical of social causes and pro-social, like participant media's take part type stuff. And very different, not the same company, but it was how can we find a way to cross that huge amount of interest in Zynga type social games to nonprofits or hybrid for and nonprofits and makes life worthwhile.
Interesting. And in terms of monetization, now do you work just with brands and brands pay for the solutions and content, or would you be actually monetizing this content in multiple ways?
Our big goal is to figure out what the business model is, to drive it around, okay, here's a first window of whatever the product is, whether it be a piece of video, a series, or a hard physical product, or an idea, like I said, with the nonprofit meets social game thing. How can we find the real backbone or spine of that product, test it, incubate it in the marketplace, and then get to a point of saying, hey, here's what the marketing needs to be to grow that. Here's what the user experience or interface has to be to really position it well in that marketplace, or people are getting used to apps as opposed to TV shows or films even, or physical products even that are going in favor of more virtual apps, and get to a point where we can say, here's the ecosystem of, let's call it the competitive landscape, but then as well, here's what needs to be done to take that product from a original idea sentiment to, okay, how can we find which verticals or audiences make sense against it, or consumers, to what is the revenue strategy around that. So we're very strategy heavy, but then what we do is say, okay, to implement this, you have to go out there and use designs as a crowdsourced design marketplace, or ELANs to do databasing or some of the business model against that. I mean, come up with ways to more efficiently sort of test and then launch product. Then I think we typically find okay, it's going to be $4 million to build the product, you know, and then $20 million to market it, etc., which is how studios work on even a much bigger level. For us, it's literally about how can you do that just to sort of test into the marketplace, and then go from sort of a soft launch to, you know, full bore launch.
And when you're launching this, you're doing this with partners, with clients, what would you call the funding sources?
It's again, to give you an example, it's a studio that says we have typically a full slate of films, of TV, of home entertainment library even, and we realize that R-rated movies are really resonant with us. So Lionsgate, where I have some 10-year-olds, like, how can we then build a model with that to launch a social game, to launch a new channel on YouTube, whether it be fitness or otherwise, and really get a sense from them, because again, their budgets are so much higher in all their other divisions. What's it going to take the relative lowest common denominator of resource and budget and test a market?
That makes sense, because it really, with your background, with what studios and television companies can afford to have on staff in-house, they can really use an outside arm that can develop their full strategy.
Well, it's also very good for them, because when you look at them and you talk to the heads of a division in digital or marketing or even theatrical, they go, we know there's disruption, we know we should have longer term planning here, that's why I wanted to think about a social business or a new game or whatever it is. Yet we don't have the resources, and everybody else is already spinning so many plates just to keep their relative brands or their products or the slate going forward. So we need someone outside of this that isn't going to bring the overhead issues, where it's how do we tap into it. And a lot of what they can do with us is they find a regular product on their slate or a TV series, and they go, we want you to help market that one in digital and social, but we also want to see if there's a longer term business here where we can partner with someone who's got a budget into digital with Microsoft or YouTube. And that's where we can handshake something to them. Once we model it for them, once we set expectation on it, they can now say, we know what the budget will be going forward. That is backed up by case studies and research, and hopefully some internal campaigns too.
So it's really more than just developing a business model. You actually help them.
Yeah, they actually want to launch a product, so it's quarterbacking. And again, like yourself, Marietta, it's literally knowing the people in the business. But I think there's a huge sort of crossover between strategy and execution. Everyone has the vision out there, I think, is obviously smart in the market, but it's being able to connect the dots and say, here's who you have to be in the room with. So what we do typically, it's kind of a slightly large client a year ago, is we bring out kind of a mini TED. We get a whole bunch of thought leaders in the space. So for WVP, we brought in some of the big execs from Facebook, Twitter, Foursquare, Scavenger, Zynga, and some of the biggest nonprofit people who are also very smart about digital and social media. And we put them in a room with white paper all over every wall. And we brought in a facilitator from the TED Talks who is excellent about drawing and illustrating. And we walked out after 6 hours, a long time relatively, and we had, of course, drinks afterwards elsewhere, but walked out saying, we now know what's working in the marketplace, we know what we don't know as well, and lastly, we picked up some key ideas here, people who would be sort of thought partners and maybe even strategic partners down the line that to us costs the price of renting an office space in our own building, which is nothing, a chargeback, to the cost of, providing lunch and pastries and everything else. And everyone did it because of the social good connection to it. So that's something we can also add to it, a matter of business and brands and whatnot, is can you find that pro-social piece? Because when you bring that, everyone sort of wants to forget about bringing their wallet and or bringing their cash register. And it ends up being a much better project too, I think.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I totally see now the depth and breadth of the offering and how it can really benefit so many players in the space, because the space is getting more complex and somewhat chaotic for incumbents.
Well, the studios, as we know, I mean, I'm putting together a program for the British School of America, and we're trying to show that traditional meets digital disruption of sorts. And so we have some top filmmakers like Chris Nolan and Ryan Grazer and folks like that. Also like a Mark Cuban. And again, Mark Cuban's almost a polar opposite, but he's also an extremely wealthy individual. So where is that middle ground for a studio or a brand or an ad company to say, we can't get Mark Cuban to give us anything, and he would charge ungodly amounts or charge us nothing and say very little, to a producer, again, more in the entertainment space, who would say, I don't really know, but I'm making most of my money in today's currency of traditional media, but if I have a legacy plan, I also need someone to talk to. And the agencies, the talent agencies, have some services, but it's typically one agent with an assistant, and they have to service hundreds of current clients who may or may not have any digital intuition. And so I think we kind of slide in that and bridge that Hollywood, Silicon Valley space.
So challenging.
Maybe.
No, that's huge opportunity, and I think it's very challenging. And it's great to have this right people making this work, because then there's more value there for the whole ecosystem.
Well, it's, the funny thing I say that, because I deal with a lot of traditional media executives and founders type people, and I always say it's not digital as this arrogant bunch that's saying we're the future and sayonara, and yeah, you might live in a nice palatial mansion in Bel Air now, but in 20 years I'll be, played by Justin Timberlake in a movie. And I think it comes back around to that idea that it's got to be a very friendly handshake, the DNA that's taken from traditional media X and peanut buttered against technology distributor Y leads to a result that still holds the main DNA in it. But it's they have to let go. It's kind of also almost being like a social psychologist to say, let go of some of your IP because you're going to build something that can have longer term play and have less marketing and advertising spend, and be slightly see as a sort of passive revenue. And again, they always want to go 360 merchandising and some revenue streams, and that's what we're talking about.
Makes sense. And we would love for you to share these views with our audience, because it's very encouraging, and it's also very enlightening to hear this. So thank you so much for being with us here.
Thanks for having me.